I did a Zoom interview today, and I just want you to know my new internet connection. Fucking
flawless.
Hot Wi-Fi signal.
Would you say it's military grade? Or maybe more...
It's nothing like at my folks' place. I don't know what they're hooked into.
Well, he's a pod captain.
They got some, yeah.
You know?
But he doesn't know how to log on, but...
Well, yeah, hack in.
He doesn't know how to type, my father.
Yeah. Yeah, well...
He couldn't turn on the computer.
No.
If life or death, it would be interesting to see.
Because it's interesting because he is like the tsunami watch podcast.
Yeah, but that's, like I told you, this is when everything's gone.
Oh, yeah, this is like the
Children
day after.
of Men.
Yeah.
You know, Day After Tomorrow, Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid.
Yeah. Well, Dennis Quaid's on the island, I think.
To like, you know, in that movie, he's like hiking through the snow to save Jake Gyllenhaal, like in New York. In like the library, he's like, there's only one thing to do. That's my dad.
Yeah. I'm kind of more on the Beatles kind of tip of like, if the world's going down, I'm going to go get some nice like chiffon blouses and kind of dress real nice.
Yeah. My dad's super McCartney, but not that Paul.
Which Paul?
Scotland Farm Paul.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
Mole.
Yeah,
is my father. Like, if you see photos, like...
I noticed you're wearing you're kind of keeping up.
Yeah, this is a good kind of Paul sweater. Kind of a little bit...
An Argyle?
Yeah, kind of Christmassy a bit, too.
It's got a Christmas feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
That broke them up. That broke the band up.
That's the best meme that's come out of this.
So far, that's the best one.
Yeah, there's probably a lot.
Yeah.
Can we try my new song about having a wonderful Christmas time? That's good.
So just welcome to Impossible Way of Life, your official Get Back alternative take podcast. And I've got to say, I'm seeing a lot of kind of, people on the internet kind of like finally kind of taking heed of a lot of the things that our fans know over the last year and a half, 2 years. We've been saying some prescient stuff. I saw a trade magazine, a kind of big paper today, post a kind of meme about how the Beatles are Lord of the Rings characters. And I saw the drummer from the Black Crowes posted Lord of the Ringos and a photo he'd made or someone he'd seen. So I just want to say, like, stop stealing our shit, or at least acknowledge us.
Get a life.
Get a life. Just acknowledge that, we were the, creators
exactly.
of this. Well, Peter Jackson created it.
Where credit is due. That's all we ask for.
Just, pay it forward or something.
Whatever.
Don't. It's fine. But, just to recap on how we're going about.
I guess it's before you finish that thought, I suppose it's possible to think that maybe not everyone in the world was thinking about this Beatles documentary like 2 years ago. It's possible to think that.
And, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter because it's our intellectual property. If you were around in the 60s, you had like access to riffs that no one else had access to yet because there was more riffs.
Right.
And now there's no riffs left.
Right.
Like the Ocean was the last one.
Is that right?
I think it was about that. Yeah, that would be. Or maybe, actually, no, because AC/DC.
I thought there was Stranglehold by Ted Nugent.
The Nuge? This is a left-wing podcast.
Oh, alternative.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an alternative take.
Yeah.
He's kind of down the middle. He's kind of far out.
He's far
right somewhere.
The Motor City Madman? Say no more. You know what else? I've seen a lot of things around kind of popping up. Why isn't there an official Get Back podcast? And I say, look no further.
Certainly.
Than your neighborhood Impossible Way of Life podcast, because for those of you who might not have noticed, we're all Beatles all the time these days.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you're drinking white wine. It's not a Zinfandel.
I'm drinking a Gewürztraminer.
Oh, okay.
I'll only drink. And you know that about me.
I do.
I've only ever drank German white wine.
Yeah. I'm wearing a sweater, growing a beard here. I mean, it's like
I went to rehearsal the other day after our last episode, dressed with my Hofner, dressed as Goth Paul, which is like the end of Act 1. And people just were disgusted at me. I didn't realize that the whole world wasn't dressing up like that. And then I'm thinking, you know, next time it's Halloween and you say I'm grumpy for not dressing up, go fuck yourselves. This is a bigger holiday. Yeah. This is one of the biggest moments of my life. And if I want to choose which Paul I want to be, then let it be.
Yeah, be you, be Paul, whatever.
So anyway, you know, I just wanted to say, break this down a little bit, because this is the Wednesday episode. For everyone who's not a patron, you missed a big one last Sunday, which was kind of the first breaking down kind of reaction to the Beatles Get Back documentary. And here's what we're going to do, folks, for you. We're kind of thinking vaguely we're going to do 2 episodes on each act.
Yeah, so this is part 2
of part 1
of Act 1.
Yeah, exactly. And don't think that we're not doing our homework, because I know, Johnny, you've watched it now 4 times.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to see.
Well, the whole thing 3 times, and then the ending for a 4th time, the last
the
half
George
hour.
leaves ending. And we're just talking about Act 1 here.
Yeah. No, just Act 1. I have no idea what happens.
I don't know what happens.
I just hope that they could get this show together.
If anyone has listened to this podcast before, listen to the Birds episode we did, because it's kind of going to get that messy, I think. And once we've done 6 episodes, 2 of each on each act, then we get in the guests.
Yes, to do 2 more
of each. And we're hoping we can get through till at least kind of CSNY in deep dive February, maybe.
I said to you after the last one, and you wholeheartedly agreed.
Oh yeah,
that the only natural thing that we can do,
the American Beatles,
is once we finish with all this Beatles, kind of where do you go from here? Go back to where it all started, James.
Yes,
you know, CSNY. That's kind of was our bread and butter for a long time on this podcast, and we haven't started on the Doom tour.
Yeah,
and
we don't. No, we don't own those chords.
Yeah.
But when me, Stephen,
and David sing, it is demented.
It sounded like
Andy Serkis
ever sounded before.
It sounded like Andy Serkis was in the room. Yeah.
The sound we created, no one had ever done before.
At first, you know,
we were laughing.
We were laughing at first. And then as we hit that,
by the second time round,
it was a bit confusing. By the 3rd line of cocaine, it was psychotic.
Insane.
What do you think about
insane?
What do you think about Jealous Guy's original lyrics?
Child of Nature?
Yeah.
I think Jealous Guy's, it got a lot better. Here's the thing.
You think? Do you not like the kind of Marrakesh Express feel of Child of Nature? Don't you know we're going?
It don't take much to set me free. Here's the thing about the Beatles, all right? This is kind of I figured out why the Beatles are so good.
Huge.
You want to know why? This is what we like to call, I'm going to give you a real hot take here. So
please do, actually.
Okay. This is what we like to call on this show a hot take.
Nice.
A lot of bands are good for various reasons. Musicianship.
That is so
lyrics,
true.
Clothing, cultural imprint, all this.
Yeah. Aesthetic, just faces, facially, visually.
Sure. The Beatles, maybe you could say all of the above.
So true.
But you know what makes them so good?
Tell me.
Is that all of the bad ideas that they have when they're creating all of these songs, you see it. There's a lot of bad ideas, arrangement ideas, that when you hear that final record that winds up on our turntable, all the bad ideas are gone. And it's only the best ideas that remain. So that was, to me, their gift was their ability to know what was the best.
Do you think it's possible that George Martin has a lot to do with that?
Probably, partly, but I think they just kind of knew too. Yeah. You know how we listen to probably some old records we've made, and I'm kind of like,
oh, it's
yikes!
Stinky. Yeah,
what the hell did you do that?
Well, mostly
overdub for
my feeling is normally like the thing that when I listen to old records I've made that I go yikes about is when I know I was trying to shortcut my way to being like good.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, oh, I'm just kind of aping something else here. Like, this is me doing someone else, hoping no one notices. Whereas when the Beatles do that, it's kind of like cute or something.
Well, and I just don't think really very much. Like, it's interesting to see when you see them developing the songs and there's a bunch of mediocre ideas.
Yeah.
That none of those mediocre ideas wind up in the final version.
Yeah.
But the question then, that begs the question, though, is... do we think it's a bad idea mostly because it's not in the final version? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's some kind of...
maybe if it was in the final version.
Philosophical kind of...
Okay, now I'm starting to rethink this whole theory.
Now we're getting into kind of Nolan kind of world. I watched the new Bond.
Oh, you saw
That's kind of Beatlesy.
One question, did you go Atmos?
No, because I didn't have the... I didn't go to it. I watched it with...
in
the in-laws. I watched it with Patrick on his like massive cinema screen in his house.
He was able to. He had like a bootleg copy.
No, it's on Amazon. You can just rent it.
It's already out.
You can rent it. I've been there.
I don't know how this stuff.
You
works.
just get it. It's $20.
$20.
It's $20. You can watch it. I don't know.
How was it?
I don't like the Daniel Craig Bonds because
you don't have to watch him anymore. It's done.
Yeah, exactly. But this one was like more of the same, where it's like they're sexless, camp. They're not camp anymore.
What about Ana de Armas?
Is that
isn't she the female lead in it?
No, it's a French girl, Léa Seydoux or whatever.
Oh, I thought she was
She's
in
great. Like, the acting's good, but it's like he doesn't get laid. Well, he never gets laid. It's like the implication that will happen, and by the end of it, that's what you think is going to happen all the time. But there's no real camp in it. Q is now just openly gay, where it was like obviously a better bit that you knew he was gay and it was implied in the way he behaved and acted, right. But like now he's like openly out. So that's kind of like they've just neutered a lot of the jokey aspect of it. And it's just serious now. And I wonder if it's Christopher Nolan's fault or something. Like it's kind of everything has to be like the Dark Knight now.
Yeah.
That exists completely. Or Bourne. It's kind of like Bourne.
Same thing.
And you're thinking like Bond's like the biggest franchise. Like they shouldn't be copying.
It is. It did kind of start with Bourne.
Yeah, I think
kind of thing.
Bourne kind of.
Because even the Pierce Brosnan Bond was funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
On a top.
Yeah.
And action, but nothing bad's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's why you like it. It's like watching Gunsmoke. Mm-hmm. Like the good guys win, the bad guys lose. He gets the girl at the end.
Yeah,
and you're having a good time, and then you go out and you're like,
Well, they got that new Batman coming out too. That looks like a bag of shit.
Actually, before we kind of really get into the sort of meat on the bone of the Beatles Act 1 second podcast, we're not paying enough attention to, the real Beatles film that's being made, Midas Man, about Brian Epstein.
Oh, man, I saw that.
I mean, shout out to friend of the pod, Paul.
Oh, yeah, Paul Hawley. Good drummer. So there's a movie called Midas Man coming out about Brian Epstein, developed and directed by Sarah Sugarman. Big cast. There's big stuff, this. And they've released the first stills. Yeah.
So we got 4 actors kind of being the Beatles. It's Beatles, right? This isn't going to stop.
Well, cash in while the iron's hot, right?
Well, yeah, strike while the iron's hot. But also, we've got, we were just talking last week about the Grateful Dead biopic, you know? And we were thinking like,
that's adjacent.
Sure it is, but also
60s culture.
You know, and we're looking at the people. We've talked about B2, the new Beatles.
Yeah.
We're not completely sure who's in it yet, but everyone in this kind of Time Wave Zero, version of the 60s that we're living in now has to be represented by someone. I still think Dave Grohl's going out of his way to be Ringo. I think it's unlikely he'll get that role, but he's trying. But you know, we were talking about Dylan because he's going to have to be in both Midas Man and the Grateful Dead biopic.
Yeah.
And, you know, me and Bleecker, and then you were talking Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Suited for it. Turns out he's already doing a Dylan biopic that's coming out. Another one.
Unbelievable.
But the funniest thing, and perhaps the most important thing about
He'd be a good Dylan, I think.
Just what, because of his hair?
Yeah, just kind of like
He's kind of just his hair.
I guess.
He has like a limp wrist and long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's never done Speed.
No.
And he's going to have to...
He might do
He's
it.
going to have to... Well, that's what we were saying with Jonah Hill. Mm-hmm. Like, Jonah Hill... He's
partied. He's partied.
Yeah, but they're also going to have to shut Hate Street down, just kind of lock it down, get someone to kill a couple of people in Golden Gate Park, if you want to get it authentic, and let him just kind of trip out.
Yeah.
You know?
Scorsese can probably just recreate that kind of tension
energy
on
and
set.
tension.
He's good at that.
Kind of like in a kind of Hitchcock style.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get Robbie in.
Sort of paranoia.
Yeah, kind of a pellicula vibe, really. Oh, sorry, pecula.
May I just say, I know what's coming, but
Okay.
that I saw those stills from that Beatles movie, and the gear choices were, for lack of a better word, atrocious.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Insulting.
Yeah. Okay. It's like a car crash.
I mean,
here I am right now.
Yeah.
Looking, and we've got, this is the cast. We've got like people from Peaky Blinders. We got Lee Harvey Elledge, who's already played Liam Gallagher in something. So we got some real ringers, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And the photos of these four guys. Oh, it's Pete Best too. Someone's playing Pete Best. Ringo probably wants to play himself. I imagine Darnie is playing George. And in the photos, they're all in a studio that looks like Abbey Road. It's kind of cool. It's like, well, no, not Abbey Road. They're in a studio. Everything's looking good. And they're playing orange Tiny Terror amps. 90s, 2000 orange
like straight
amps.
off the Long McQuaid showroom floor.
Straight. They may as well be playing
They
Spiders.
probably don't even work. Yeah.
Oh, they're probably playing Line 6 Spiders. And you got to think, and they've got like a solid state Princeton in there. You just got to think, like, how do you get these jobs?
I know.
I want that job.
The
I'd have done a hell of a good job.
The mic stands are all wrong too.
I know, the modern mic stands.
Yeah, with like they're double braced.
I know.
Listen to this, okay? Here's see if you guys can hear this. Here's Paul Hawley himself reacting
live
to the photos.
Okay.
Oh boy. These errors with the gear and the hair, and it's egregious. It pains me seeing this kind of lack of attention to detail. It's a big budget movie and they're using new gear trying to pass this off as the Beatles. Makes me want to just not ever watch this movie. An orange amp, a right-handed Hofner being held upside down. New school double-braced hardware on clearly a new Ludwig drum kit. I don't know what kind of amps are going on in the studio. There's a Vox there, but the Beatles were never near an orange amp. I mean, what's the rest of the movie going to be like if they can't even hire a half-decent consultant to make sure those kind of details are incorrect? I'll say it again. Egregious.
You heard it there.
I want everyone here listening on the podcast to know Paul's okay. He's fine. Like he took it hard, but he's doing well.
We've been talking. We've been talking a lot since working through it. He's good. Yeah. And I should also just say one of the Beatlesiest guys I know
played in a band with one of those anti-Beatle guys.
Yeah,
too.
which must have been
really tough because we've talked about those guys. Black Cloud over there. Yeah. Let it in, man. Let it in.
It went on and on. He said, then the next text was, these pictures fill my body with rage. He said, oh, Jerry Lee Lewis played a Roland Jupiter 80, right?
Yeah, nice.
Who cares?
Classic,
it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Sheila, please.
Elvis Presley played bass on Ed Sullivan, I'm sure. Oh, who'll even notice? Nobody knows these people.
Yeah.
Egregious.
Egregious seems to be the buzzword.
Egregious.
Egregious seems to be the buzzword for him.
Oh, man.
You ever considered on Get Back, the Peter Jackson movie,
with you. I'm
Act
back.
1,
yeah,
that perhaps on second viewing, because we've both watched it, because we talked about, okay, here's where we left off. This is where we got to because we kind of talked a little bit and then went chronologically through. So pretty much we got to about like George playing All Things Must Pass.
Yes.
And we were talking about how it's very much got Basement Tapes energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because he would have had the tapes. The tapes weren't released, but he had the tapes.
Yeah, he'd been partying with the band.
So the band, Fairport Convention, had a copy of them. Because
they were floating around.
Well, listen, I've been there. Yeah. So that's kind of where we were at. Mm-hmm. We just talked about how Gimme Some Truth kind of has like a modern Van Morrison vibe. Like why
Give Me Some Truth as done by Paul McCartney comes across more like a
bit
Van
like
Morrison.
Kind of Why You on Facebook.
Yeah, which is kind of a good vibe.
Yeah.
I don't love that song on Imagine, so it might have been better.
G, Give Me Some Truth. G, and then E, and then just play that blues.
All right, given by God.
Yeah. Peace. Nice lineage there, because where we're kind of up to is in the Act 1, whole lot of Clapton talk.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Well, I think that Clapton had the whole world kind of brainwashed at that time into thinking that he was the top guitar player on Earth. Jimmy'd probably already passed, right? In 69?
Let's say so for the benefit of this kind of...
I don't actually know. So, according to sort of mass rock media, Clapton was left top dog at that point.
Yeah.
And Beatles,
ranking-wise.
Yeah. And Beatles, they were Clapton people. He played on one of the only non-Beatles person to come in and kind of play on a song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, that was already out, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the Rock and Roll Circus performance, which was 68.
Yeah.
John famously playing with Clapton and his band.
Yeah.
The Dirty Mac or whatever they would call. They do Your Blues with Mitch Mitchell, Keith, Clapton, and John.
It's a powerhouse.
Kind of a weird group. Never thought it really worked.
Yeah, I'm not really into it. No.
When I watch them, I'm like, it seems like four guys in different bands.
Which it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of...
Keith on bass.
Four really kind of individual players. Yeah. Quite unique styles.
Everybody trying to be the
main dog.
Yeah.
Mitch Mitchell was like doing that with Jimmy.
Yeah, he was.
Even.
Yeah.
And it kind of works, kind of a Keith Moon approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not very good.
So Clapton, you can tell, I think, in the documentary that there's some, with George's kind of Clapton, there's the Clapton kind of shadow looming which is interesting because George and him were so close. They're like, blood brothers and shit.
Even though, Clapton's probably already sleeping with his wife, even if they're not
his 14-year-old
together or whatever. Yeah. And at the same time, it must have been okay. Let me just say this first and foremost. The way that I view George in Act 1 of this movie is that he's incredibly difficult. The most difficult of all.
Queen bitch.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times now. The most opinionated.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest ego, which is crazy to say with Paul McCartney.
Also, he's got one of the kind of like reasons you can, because I agree with you. Yeah. To corroborate this is he's stuck in the past. In terms of clothing. It's like, you know, these other guys, you know, they're kind of in 69. He's kind of still in blouses, kind of still Magical Mystery, Sgt. Pepper's. Pirate. He's still pirate, clothing-wise. Yeah. Which is huge. And you see the other guys have moved on. McCartney will come in.
It's kind of vampire pilgrim.
Yeah, sure, but tailored.
Yeah.
Tailored clothing. John's just on heroin.
Which is vampire.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Or it's like regal pirate, but it's not. It's like dandy highwayman.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of like McCartney's, in terms of the music, there's a lot of clown pirate stuff going on.
Oh, certainly.
But in terms of fashion, which is equally as important.
I think I Me Mine has a real pirate vibe.
Just
all through the day, I Me Mine,
it does.
It does.
Yeah. It also has some of those Beatles copyrighted chords that no one else is allowed.
I couldn't figure out that one. No one's frightened of playing. Yeah. There's something going on there.
Yeah, which no one else has access to.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a paid thing. Like it's like an app, you have to pay to get that chord.
Yeah, could be.
Or whoever gave them B7 on the bus back in Liverpool.
Maybe he had some other fucking really good chords that he just kept them for himself and didn't want anyone else.
Some to rehearsal.
This is how people really fucking sound if they're from Liverpool. They don't sound like the Beatles.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
the
anyway.
guy who sold them the B7, because he would have sold it for like, I don't know, a can of Carling Black Label or something. He definitely had more chords.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
when you go to Liverpool as a musician, as a kid, as a young man, you'd play there. It's only like 40 minutes from Manchester, and it was still skiffle.
Yeah.
They still had a skiffle scene. They have different chords in Liverpool.
That's cool.
To everywhere else. So if anyone's looking for those chords, that's like if you went to Liverpool and said to like anyone who played guitar, like, can you play I Me Mine? They'd just like, no, I've never played it, but I'm sure I could figure it out, and they'd do it first time and it'd be fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I
like
love
Lee
that.
Mathers from the Lars, he had access to those chords. John Power from Cast even. He had access to them.
Laws are good.
Yeah, the Lars are good.
Laws are good?
Laws are good? Yeah, that record's great.
George was the most difficult, but also the least delusional. That's what I was saying. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, but he seems to me seething at times. And you don't get that in the original Let It Be documentary.
No.
I'm going to say this. Based on Act 1, and I know everyone listening's seen it all already.
Yeah.
And that's great. But we're going to kind of...
Some may be following along with us.
Yeah, and it's totally cool if you've seen it all, but like watch it again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I got a feeling Macca is going to come out on top.
You've got a feeling?
Yeah, I got a feeling Macca's coming out on top because he produced it, let's be honest.
Of course
and
he
he
is.
set us up first, like we said in the last episode, he's hoping... His kind of gambit is that we realize that his creative genius is validated and vindicates the whole story of Let It Be.
Well...
And he sets it up in Act 1 with a few kind of shitty vibes. Like he's like peppering me being a bit shitty, but he's also a complete megalomaniac. So he's like peppering me being a bit shitty to George, but also... let's splice together a 10-minute sequence where like Linda is watching me play the whole of Abbey Road, just figuring it out, dub it because it never really happened, and then splice in photos that she's taking of me doing this. Like Yoko doesn't get any of that love at all. John doesn't. It's just somehow the living guy.
Although Yoko has been... vindicated.
Yeah, people are going to say that, but she's just on heroin. That's all that's happened.
Right, but like she came out, a lot of people are saying, Peter Jackson included, that she's now been absolved of
responsibility.
Guilt. Yeah.
For
breaking up the band.
But, once again, just this week, because there's a whole lot of McCartney propaganda right now. Like, he's, battling.
That thing that he did that
Listen to this. This is last week. Paul McCartney tweet. Tomorrow night, tune in for an evening of Paul McCartney on BBC. And it's Paul McCartney at the BBC from 7. This is on the BBC.
Yeah.
BBC 2. This is on this is an actual channel. It's not like a made up cable channel.
No.
Paul McCartney at the BBC, 7:55 to 9:25 p.m., followed by Paul McCartney at the Cavern Club, 9:25 to 10:55 p.m., and then 10:55 to 11:50, Idris Elba meets Paul McCartney. So he owns the BBC at this point.
Well, and you sent me...
Well, and he's rehashing this fucking one time he spoke out about Yoko and John.
Yeah, you sent me the way I interpreted this, which I thought was really interesting. You sent me a thing, and I only read the transcript from the interview, and it was this quote about John and Yoko and the things that they were saying, like war's over. Well, it isn't really.
Yes,
and I was like, oh yeah. I texted you. I said that's from that 1980s interview that we did an episode on,
exactly,
that I listened to, and you were like no, like turn it on, and I clicked it, and it was him now saying
literally
it
on BBC Radio 6.
So I don't understand.
But he's saying it like verbatim.
Why? I don't.
He's saying it like he's read a transcript of his own interview from the 80s, and he's redoing
or
the
he
interview.
Liked that line so much that he's remembered it since the 80s.
Yeah.
And he's like using it again.
I know.
But it's not even that good. And it's like Lennon's body isn't even cold, man.
Dude, let him fucking sleep.
He died 40 years ago.
Leave
Why do you
him
have
alone.
to drag it? Like, we know that you didn't just write Yesterday.
No.
We're watching Get Back.
Yeah.
We know that you wrote fucking Penny Lane and all these tunes.
You've already taken Come Together. You're taking Day in the Life. You'll probably end up, and I mark my words.
Yeah.
I helped write Imagine. It's coming. It won't be long.
Well, Yoko's still alive, so
it won't be long until
she's gone.
Well, he's not going to say he wrote it. He's already said he wrote Day in the Life now, right? Like that one's gone. So the only one really left is Imagine.
Yeah.
So it'll start with him being interviewed by Dave Grohl talking about how he wrote Imagine.
Maybe the piano part.
Just helped with the piano.
Maybe he'll no, I had that for a song.
Yeah, no, that was an old Beatles song.
Yeah,
It was an old Beatles song.
He's like, it's very much like a Macca style.
Yeah, it's an old Beatles song. Actually.
Anyway, the thing is, if Paul's listening right now...
Yeah, which is possible.
I just want you to know, Paul, we love you, but don't worry. Nobody thinks that you only wrote Yesterday or that you didn't contribute to the Beatles' music.
Yeah.
We know that you did. We know there would be no Beatles without you.
You're good, yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
We know.
You're good,
It's
man.
okay.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Spend time with your family.
Let it in.
Yeah.
Let the Beatles in.
Just enjoy it.
He needs to let the Beatles in.
Yeah.
Same way we talk about these people who are filled with hate.
Yeah.
But, we talked in the last episode, about this. It's a kind of theory that I think over the coming episodes, months and years will develop more. He is in the shadow. They're number one. Everyone knows the Beatles are number one. But he's kind of always in the shadow or the vacuum of John Lennon's death. And the possibility that John Lennon was better than him, wrote better, bigger songs when needed, and also was a better hang. And I think more importantly than that is he can't be John Lennon. He's better than... So, in his world, the only person he's fears to this day is John Lennon, which is why he still, 40 years on from John's death, is reducing the impact John had, but we can all see it. And it's the McCartney syndrome. It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome or like something. And Dave Grohl is doing it with Kurt Cobain too. He's not got to the part where he talks about Kurt Cobain actually not writing stuff. He actually did. He is on record as writing Smells Like Teen Spirit, though, Dave Grohl, which is huge. He wrote that song. But
really,
it's the same thing where it's like, everyone, you were already number one, man. Like, you were in Nirvana. Don't worry about it. Like, but now you're trying to kind of like, and everyone knows Foo Fighters aren't as good as that. They're not. They're a comedy band. They're a clown band, which is kind of McCartney adjacent, which is why he's pulling the same kind of stunt that McCartney needs to pull to try and kind of circumvent the truth that the only person he can't be is the person who was in a band with him, in a more successful band than the one he's in now. And it doesn't matter how many Rock and Roll Hall of Fames and how many stories you write about it.
He also did Wings and all that.
I know.
There's so much good shit.
It's good. Just chill out. People
I love
like
it.
you.
I
People
love
like
those
Dave
records.
Grohl. Everyone just needs to chill out.
I don't understand. I'll tell you what, the only person who comes off as a good hang at all in this movie is Ringo.
Yeah, consider this.
All other three look like a bad hang.
Well, everyone knows Ringo's special power is hanging.
Yeah.
You know? And at this point, for me, music is mostly about the hang.
You know, and Ringo, I thought about this today. I was on the phone with a drummer friend of mine.
Yeah.
Steve Diddlow, shout out to him.
Shout out, man.
He had a great take on this.
Yeah, a hot take, you might say.
Yeah. That he was saying that Ringo is so phenomenal in this movie because he's just there like as security for the band, kind of like it's the greatest part of a drummer. We were saying 2 things you got to do to be a really good drummer.
Yeah.
Play to the song, listen to the music, and play for a band like, Beatles or whatever, like any band.
Rhythm.
Yeah. Play for the song.
So
Number
that's
2,
rhythm.
Be a good hang.
Okay. I would say rhythm and timing and be a good hang.
Yeah.
Well, just have meter.
Yeah.
And
you
just
gotta be
and just only play like hats, kick, snare for at least like the first 99% of any song.
Yeah,
that's being
but
created.
think about it. You got to be a good hang to be a good drummer in a band. And I just think that Ringo really checks both those boxes.
He also might be checked out too.
Yeah, he's working out his part. And I know, when by the time we get to that rooftop, Ringo's going to be fucking rocking.
Oh yeah, he will be.
I've heard Get Back.
I've heard it.
I've
heard it.
Dude, you know those fills are going to be dialed.
Yeah, and no one else can play them.
No.
One else has ever.
Steve said that today. He's like, I was watching those.
No one else can play.
He'd seen part 3. I said no spoilers, but I have seen the.
I've seen Let It Be.
Yeah, I've seen the movie. I do know what happens, but he was like, I was watching those fills. It's like nobody plays fills like that.
Well, do you want to pretend we're at the bar? You've met a young bride, and you're talking to her about the Beatles, and what would be the next thing you say at this point?
I would say, it
constantly impresses everyone.
It would be, I would say, actually, everybody really thinks Ringo's a bad drummer.
Nice.
People talk about that all the time.
So true,
How he's technically not a good, but you know what? He's actually a great drummer. Right. And in fact, some of those fills he does on Day in the Life and on Get Back are actually really complicated.
Yeah.
And a lot of drummers like Phil Collins and people who are considered like technically good drummers.
Kind of like the Steven Seagal of drumming.
Will say, they've gone on record many times as saying they don't understand Ringo's choice there, which is what makes it so unique and
Would
so
you
special.
say anything else? I really want you to just lean into like this one specific thing I'm trying to get out of you.
About Ringo?
About the way he plays fills. Why they're so
backwards.
Unique. Why is that?
I don't know.
Because he's leading with the wrong hand.
Is that what he does?
That's what he does. Oh, I thought this was just a given kind of.
I've heard you say this before.
He leads,
I never knew this.
He
really.
leads with. I'm backwards anyway, but he leads
with.
He leads
with the left hand.
Yeah, he leads with his left hand.
So he'll go ba 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 boom. Oh wow, cool.
And that's why they do that, and that's why they do it. None more black.
That's cool.
No more black. Lindsay Hogg. No more black.
And what's the name of the guy who directed Let It Be?
Lindsay Hogg, yeah.
Michael Eaton Hogg or something?
Michael
No,
Eaton,
that's the guy
Lindsay
from
Hogg.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah. No, that's Tap Into America.
Yeah. Sir David Eaton Hogg.
Yeah, which is probably meant to be him. No,
Yeah.
it is like Lindsay Hogg, I think. Michael Lindsay Hogg.
And shall we say, tap
Into America. You know.
Yeah.
Fran Drescher.
Oh, yeah, great scene.
Really good scene.
Billy Crystal and Dana Carvey as come on, mime is money. Come on.
That's the top scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about... I've got notes here from the last time we met that we didn't get through.
Okay.
That are making less and less sense because I was in a fugue state.
Yeah.
Frankly, when I was making these. And also, great news, guys. I'm going to watch part 2 tonight.
Fantastic.
I'm
I'll
fired
do
up.
the same. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, you know.
Yeah. I might watch part 1 more time.
Well, listen, I mean, okay, so forget what I'm going to say because I remember the big revelation for you, and I have a revelation too. But the big revelation for you is that you realized something specific about Paul McCartney's temperament because we talked a lot about how John Lennon is much more doped up than I was expecting. Like, you think he's checked out, but I think he's just... And you even saw his dealer.
We saw Spanish Tony Sanchez.
Tony. Yeah, he came in. So
anytime you got a drug dealer named Spanish Tony.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you
I
noticed
was
something
actually
specific about Paul's behavior.
It was my beautiful young bride, Alex, who really picked it out.
Yeah.
That...
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah, we're
Thank you for lending us the mason jar with the whiskey.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
the Zoom audio.
Yeah, I mean, that we wouldn't be a podcast without it. And you know how much we love those preamps. A lot of people talk about Neves, APIs, SSLs. A lot of people talk about kind of, EMI.
Sure.
When, I mean, I love like a nice sort of like Universal Audio LA610. It's kind of modeled on those old boards. TG12345, Chandler. All of these
Can
preamps.
I tell you what?
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
And I'll say this on record. That Zoom 2 like mobile recorder, some of the best preamps in the game.
Yeah, in the game. I would love to just use that for vocals.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah.
I loved my Zoom effects pedal when I was growing up, my 505 or something, where it gets all of the guitars. If you want Liverpool Crunch or, British Invasion, there's presets for that. You want Edge, dotted 16th. It's all in there.
Why the fuck doesn't anybody hire us to do this stuff?
Yeah, just you wait, pal. Well, because we've never asked.
Too easy. And then as soon as they ask us, we wouldn't be able to do it. It wouldn't be as good.
No, I'd be able to do it.
Yeah, of course. So could I.
Because I believe in it. I'm not joking.
You know what? I used a bunch down in LA, that Warm Audio Neve clone.
Okay, great. 1073, yeah.
Wonderful.
Listen,
sounded great.
I've got one in there. I've got a BAE
sounded as good as the VinCat, maybe VinCat.
The VinCat? Whoa, that's a Victoria. That's some free association right there.
Dude.
What's next? Numbers and letters or whatever? Shapes and sizes?
Yeah, dude. That's getting me back.
I was just in Victown, man. Vintech.
Yeah.
Well, if you think that the Warm Audio stuff sounds as good as... We've got at least a YouTube video to make where we test them.
Yeah, we should.
But we're not going to just test them. We're also going to need some kind of oscilloscope to prove that it's snake oil that makes the difference. Anyway, VinCat, yeah.
Alex
Sufjan Stevens
noticed that Paul is coked out.
Yeah, he's coked up.
At a few different parts of the movie. And I confirmed it with a few friends. I suspected it. Confirmed it with a few friends that there's one shot of him doing some pretty cokey stuff in the corner with some randoms.
Kind of pooking.
Rubbing his gums and like in a really intense conversation in the corner in the background. And it just explains a lot. If you watch it again, you do notice... and it's not a slight to him. It was the late 60s. I know for a fact Paul was interested in cocaine from the Sgt. Pepper period on.
Yeah.
And it just kind
of... The Pepper period.
Yeah. The Pepper period. Paul was particularly interested in the Pepper period.
Yeah. In powder in the Pepper period.
Yeah, Paul did powder in the Pepper period.
He liked how it smelled.
Paul preferred powder in the Pepper period.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone
and it
knows
just
that.
you watch it again, and you're kind of like, there's quite a few moments that he's pretty keyed, like overthinking the arrangements, overworking on the song, and you can just tell that George is stuck there between two guys on opposite
the lukewarm
drugs.
water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who are by the end only working with one another.
Yes.
Paul and John are just staring at each other.
Yeah.
Like if somehow it's working for them. And, to me, that's kind of like George is like, well, that's about it for me.
Also, George has drank a bucket of Gewürztraminer.
Yeah.
Like, he's not like... It makes me wonder if he has body image issues. It would be understandable that guys at that... You think about this, like, constantly in the public eye, they're like, we talk about like, insuring Britney Spears' legs. You know what I mean? Or something.
Yeah.
Like these guys, like their faces, and this is something that I said to you, like the restoration of the video, the de-aging technology, not the Scorsese type, the Jackson type, the one he used with all those World War I guys.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Beatles look like that before. And their faces are intoxicating. Just watching them move. And you realize like, they're fucking aliens.
Yeah.
Like, they look like they're from the future. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it was made yesterday or in the future. And they're just kind of like... And not even... Like, even though anyone else behaving the way they do would seem pretentious, they're just floating above the universe, literally. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen them interact like that. And they all have just beautiful faces.
Totally.
I think.
Very handsome men.
Yeah. But I think that if you were in the public eye like they were, and they were the first kind of pop stars, I guess Elvis, some of the Big Bopper stuff, but not really, like, you would develop some complexes. And I'm just thinking, John's on heroin, so he's staying skinny that way.
Well, he always did have... John famously had many body image issues.
I think that George is like... He's got... because he's kind of still in blouse blues. Kind of clothing, which is frilly and loose. But he's not having a pint. The fact that he's drinking white wine, known to be low calorie, low carb. I just wonder if he's doing it for that reason.
Hard to say. He does make a comment about himself being really small, like short at one point or something, and it was a bit.
I mean, he's treated like a kid.
Yeah, like Paul is like the big lead guitar player, and George
Paul's started to look like an adult. Mm-hmm. Whereas John and George don't. Ringo does. He's drinking pints with Nielsen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nielsen and him are like having like chocolate eclairs and brandy Alexanders.
Yeah,
partying. Yeah. Or it's possible that Ringo was just getting.
I think George looks great. He may have had some issues, but I think he looks great.
Well, I think he looks really good, but he looks kind of chic, heroin chic. Like John literally is heroin chic. Uh-huh. George, I think, he's worried about that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think here's my... So you think McCartney's on coke. Do you think that they have stylists?
Yes.
Okay.
The hair particularly looks phenomenal every day.
Yeah.
George especially, his hair's like poofed and floofed and looking
like they're doing wardrobe before.
Well, they got a film crew there.
I know.
I'm sure they've got hair and makeup people.
Yeah.
It would only make sense. I'll tell you the other thing about...
I don't think it's just hair and makeup. I think it's also clothing. I think that, like they're doing... I feel like they're doing like major... like stylists in there, because it almost looks like an episode of Miami Vice at times.
Yeah,
where like it's matching. They'll be like, okay, as soon as George Martin's, who's always wearing a suit.
Yeah,
as soon as he walked in like a periwinkle shirt that matched the carpets, I was like, okay. Someone's styling this whole fucking thing.
Certainly possible. I mean, Vidal Sassoon cut their hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's certainly possible. It's the Beatles. Anything's possible. But going back a little bit, it got me thinking. Alex and I were talking because she loves the first McCartney solo record.
Yeah, the one which was Boozy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So after seeing
we're talking about the one that was made during the Beatles.
Yeah, right around this
just
time.
For the fans, just
right after this.
Yeah.
Like between this and Abbey Road.
You like it a lot too.
He did love it. But so here's what I'm thinking, is after watching this and seeing that he's kind of a little bit into the nose candy too, got me thinking, because his story was always, I holed up in my London home for like 3 days and made the album all on my own and just drank beer. Yeah. And I'm like, that sounds a little bit like maybe you had a little bit of other help,
like from Daddy's Little Helper kind of stuff
because you listen to that record and it's pretty candied up.
It's keyed up, yeah.
And it's like he's got like drum solos on it and stuff like that. And he recorded it all himself, overdubbed it all himself.
Are you saying it's possible that cocaine broke the Beatles up?
No, I'm saying that it's possible that cocaine contributed to Paul McCartney's most prolific era of the Beatles, in which he contributed the bulk of material for Let It Be, a solo album, and his magnum opus,
the second half of
Abbey Road. Also kind of keyed up, if you think about it. A medley.
And that became kind of his calling card.
It did.
He's kind of the medley, the suite.
Then he kind of went up to Scotland, chilled it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Take it easy. Get back in the
he was 26 years old. He was do a chiller.
Yeah.
Also, he had met the love of his life.
Yes.
You know, Linda.
But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. They were
their relationship, like
the whole thing's
forget
beautiful.
John and Yoko, Linda and Paul. That's a proper relationship.
Lovely,
you know. And he knew it. They knew it.
I have a feeling we're going to see Patty in part 2 as well.
I was saying, like, who do you think has the hottest girlfriend?
For me, I'd probably go Linda.
I'm saying Ringo's
Maureen. I know you love it.
Yeah, she's brassy. Take her down the pub with your mates. Well, we'll see what happens when Patty comes on. But she's only like 15, right? So you're not really allowed to say.
I don't know how.
Those things were what's wrong with being sexy?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know when she shows up, then fucking Clapton will be close behind. Didn't you think it was a bit bleak? And this is where we're at. This would be the sort of end because we're only at Act 1. When George leaves, that immediately Lennon's like, if he's not back by Tuesday, we'll get Clapton in.
He's pissed off.
Well, of course.
And I think that John, I think we talked about this the other day.
No, but it's almost like all I mean is, and I got this, so I thought this, because of the way things are spliced together, you know, when they're doing Get Back and John walks in, John already knows the song. It's not like, you know, you've been that beautiful moment where you see the creation of Get Back. Mm-hmm. But then when John comes in, he already knows it. So I've told myself, because I want there to be light in my life, that we're just missing an extra scene in the middle where, like, they show it to John. Like, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Interesting.
You know, because it's very noticeable.
I had another theory about that.
I was just going to say beforehand that I think that prior to even getting in to do like this whole movie, there'd already been a Harrison leaving, we're going to get Clapton in. Because they keep referencing, Clapton's too referenced for it to be, and then as soon as he's out, it's like, get him in.
Well, John had already been jamming with him.
I know, but I think that, like, George knows, they're planning it. Like, they're like, fuck him, we need a bluesman.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your theory?
Well, I had a beautiful thought today that John's not there when Paul's writing Get Back.
Yeah.
And I think that if John was in the building, that he purposefully didn't go over. Because I think he knew Paul's doing something over there. And if John had been sitting there, that song might have never been written.
We don't own.
And I think it was just one of those things that John kind of knew it. Then Paul got it out. He's doing Get Back. And then he's like, I'm going to go over.
Yeah.
It's time
because that's quite John.
Yeah.
It's quite a John song, actually. The chorus.
Yeah.
The verses are certainly...
Oh, yeah. But I just thought that was such a unique moment that might not exist if any other factors in the room were different. Yeah. That Paul's, it's almost like he's like a vessel in that I know this is like the way the editing is, but it seems like he's almost conjuring up the song in that moment.
Isn't that how it happens?
Yeah, but like with cameras all around and everybody, it's really quite interesting. I've seen it 4 times now.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say is just, to me, the whole thing is so beautiful. even down to John being junked out, Paul on coke, everything. Yeah. It's all part of the story.
It's miserable.
And I love it. And you know what else?
What else?
It's a band.
Yeah.
It's just a band.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about earlier, I want to say this, that to me, everyone's look, they're fighting. They're arguing. You know what? I bet you if you went back in time to 1966, you could have found that exact same style argument in a Beatles rehearsal. I don't think it's unique. I think everyone's saying, look, they're breaking up. But how many times, man, have we been in that room where you're like talking about a guitar part, somebody's getting a little sensitive, but people who aren't in bands, they don't get, that's actually what rehearsals are like. It's not all like sunshine and lollipops. Like,
no, it's true. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of ego at play.
And working out songs and like what everybody's going to play is a sensitive thing.
Also it's like, I think it's a John Berger quote where it's like art is like, I'm just going to butcher it, but it's like art is like playing for adults.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, because you remember when you were a kid and you like played, like you'd have games and stuff. And this is akin to the point you're making. You would be having so much fun, but it wasn't fun necessarily. It was quite serious. Like, you know, if you're like, okay, this piece of foil that I've wrapped up, it's it's a ball, and if you can hit the tree over there, that's 10 points. Yeah. Well, no, I think that branch should be 15 because it's harder, and you're coming up with these weird games that are so insular to your world.
Sure.
And, you know, it's really fun, but it's really serious too. And I think that's kind of what music, especially when you're in a band, can be. Like, sure, it looks like a miserable time, actually, at points in this documentary.
Sure.
But I think if you got back, I think you're right. If you're back in 66 and they were in a jam space, you still have that kind of energy. But I think that they might just like each other a bit more at that point.
Sure.
That's all. Because, like, making stuff together, like, the fun is in those, like, nuanced things. Like, fun can be really serious. You know what I mean? And that's playing. Playing is sometimes, there's rules. It's like sports.
And I think that a lot, maybe there's bands out there that'll be like, I don't know what Johnny's talking about because
there's no bands, so don't worry.
But they'll be like, my rehearsals are always super fun, and I love everyone in my band. And that might be true. But let me tell you, in my experience,
maybe on Burger Records or something.
Yeah, in my experience, there's always awkward moments where you bring a song in, and you don't like what the drummer's playing or what someone's playing.
Or you don't like yourself.
Yeah,
because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And even fucking sing is terrifying half the time.
Yeah, and then you have to tell your friend, I don't like what you just played.
Or they know you're terrified and think, I'm going to really stick the fucking knife in here.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm having a shitty day.
Yeah, whatever.
And you see that happen. McCartney does that with George Harrison.
Sure.
In that scene.
Totally.
The classic scene. And George, for all his like Krishnamurti, Alan Watts kind of Hare Krishna stuff, he's got a mean streak in him, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that's what, you know, a bucket of German white wine will do.
Mm-hmm. And you know what else is, a lot of people think that, here's the cool thing to me, is a lot of people think we're watching this sacred thing that is the Beatles rehearsing. Yeah. And although we are, what we're also watching is just a band.
We're just
an intimate
guys in a band.
Scene of pretty much most rock and roll bands, like trying to work out a song, like change the hairstyles, change the clothes, change the characters.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we're seeing going down is what's going on in the garages and the jam spaces
all around the Western world. Absolutely.
We speak. Yeah.
No, I think it's all happening now on Garage Band.
Yeah, exactly. Online.
Yeah, well, it's a similar thing.
More like a kind of gaming Call of Duty, like headset setup. They're jamming.
Yeah, well, as long as you have, like, I mean, as long as you have a sub pack, like an Atmos style, like a D-Box.
Yeah.
You can get them at home and then you can kind of feel the bass.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for just jamming with people like on the metaverse.
Yeah, it's going to happen. You'll be able to probably jam with B2 on the metaverse where they'll play their first gig.
And I'll be able to like my avatar will just be dressed like different eras of Paul McCartney, and
well, that's what I'm doing next Halloween, and then the Halloween after that,
and you'll be here though in your apartment alone, but you'll be going out on Halloween in the metaverse.
I've barely been outside.
Yeah,
in the last 2 years, there's not much out there.
Do people jam remotely? Actually, they do, right?
Yeah, there's
Didn't we see a thing about a friend of ours? You know who I mean. He's a legit musician.
Oh, he definitely
I've seen some stuff of him like jamming remotely. With
for sure. Because it's the future. Yeah. You got to be able to. Well, also that's what all the kids are doing. You know what I mean? You got to be able to you want to keep. In fact, you know what? No kids are doing that. But sometimes legit musicians think they're still 18.
Yeah,
and that they're gonna kind of lead the way.
Right.
Kind of like a torch lit kind of vibe. Right. So we're kind of coming to the end here. Okay. I'm excited. It's really nice to see you.
You too.
I'm excited to watch episode 2. Subscribe to our Patreon to listen to us react to Act 2. And then we'll do the same thing on Wednesday. And then we'll be on to 3. And then we're going to have to start getting Luke. We've got Paquin. We need Bleeker. We need Sam Von Cruz. I've got my friend Joe Dudderidge. He's going to come on. He's got a theory that Ringo's a mute and the only words he says are obla-di obla-da. We've got a lot to talk about. I've also got a couple of notes here that we're not going to get to. Springsteen's looking for about $415 million to sell his publishing rights. That's about 100 more than Dylan. And that the Who, more specifically Pete Townsend, is reissuing Lifehouse. So they're still doing Lifehouse.
He recorded it?
No, but it's the 50th anniversary of Who's Next, so we can't not do Lifehouse too. Well, he has to do both.
Doing the play?
It's post-Cube. We're post-Cube, man. But anyway, I'm going to get down to watching this.
I just want to say that it's pretty amazing for all you listeners that all the actual reaction video podcasts are going to be Sunday episodes.
Yeah.
For all 3. If you want the instant reaction of me and James, first time we've talked about the episode we just
because
saw.
It's truly we really haven't seen it. Like we haven't seen episode 2 yet. We're doing this for the fans.
So if you want to really, really hear like our reaction to it, you got to sign up.
Sign up and ship out.
Sign up and then
shouts out to Sounds Abound because he paid us $50 to get into the Doom tour, and we will. We'll prevail.
get there.
Okay,
we'll
peace.